They say the truth will set you free. But they never mention that the truth can also bury you alive under the weight of everything you've built. My name is Elena. For 12 years, I was the woman other women envied. I had the social media life. A custom-built home in the suburbs, a husband, Mark, who still looked at me like I was the only girl in the room, and 2 beautiful children. Leo, who's 10, and Maya, who just turned 7. Mark is a good man. No, he's a great man. He's a structural engineer, meticulous, stable, and incredibly loyal. But stability can sometimes feel like a cage when you're young and restless. 10 years ago, during a period where Mark was traveling constantly for a bridge project, I felt neglected. That's the word I used to justify it back then. I was lonely. I met Julian at a gallery opening. He was everything Mark wasn't. Impulsive, artistic, and completely temporary. Our affair lasted exactly 4 months. It was a fever dream. When I found out I was pregnant with Leo, I panicked. I cut Julian off completely. I changed my number. I buried that summer so deep I almost convinced myself it never happened. When Leo was born with Mark's chin in my eyes, I breathed a sigh of relief. I told myself I was protecting my family. I was a good mother now. For our 10th anniversary, I wanted to do something meaningful. Mark is impossible to shop for, and he's always been interested in his heritage. His grandfather was an immigrant with a murky past. So I bought those high-end DNA kits for the whole family. I thought it would be a fun Sunday afternoon activity. I didn't think. That was my first mistake. I had spent a decade believing my own lies so thoroughly that I forgot it was a lie. The kits sat on the kitchen counter for weeks. Every time I looked at them, I felt a tiny prickle of unease, but I brushed it off. It's just ancestry, I told myself. It's about where his ancestors came from in Europe. We finally did the swabs over breakfast. I laughed as I helped Maya. Mark was joking about finding out he was royalty. We mailed them off. 3 weeks later, the emails arrived. I was at the grocery store when the notification popped up on my phone. Your DNA relatives are ready to view. My heart did a strange little skip. I opened the app, expecting to see a map of Scandinavia or the British Isles. Instead, I saw a list of close relatives. At the top of the list for Leo, it didn't say Father Mark Sullivan. It said Father Julian V. The world went silent. I stood in the middle of the cereal aisle, the hum of the refrigerators sounding like a jet engine in my ears. I couldn't breathe. My phone felt like it was burning a hole in my hand. I scrolled down to Maya's profile. Father, Mark Sullivan. One child was his, one was not. And the app, the clever, intuitive, life-ruining app, had already linked our family tree. I sprinted to my car, leaving a full cart of groceries behind. My mind was racing. I could delete the account. I could tell him the kits were faulty. I could say there was a mix-up at the lab. But as I pulled into our driveway, I saw Mark's car was already there. He had left work early. And then I walked through the front door and the house was quiet. Too quiet. Mark was sitting at the dining room table. His laptop was open. He didn't look up when I entered. He just stared at the screen, his face a ghostly shade of gray. Mark? I whispered. My voice sounded like a stranger's. He turned the laptop toward me. He wasn't looking at the ancestry map. He was looking at the parent/child match page. He had already seen it. Who is Julian? He asked. His voice wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was hollow. That was worse. I tried to speak, but the lies I had practiced for 10 years died in my throat. I looked at the man who had raised Leo, who had stayed up all night when he had croup, who had coached his soccer games, and who had tucked him in every night for a decade. Mark, I can explain. I started, the cliché falling flat in the room. Explain what, Elena? Explain that for 10 years you let me believe my son was mine? Explain that you invited this into our house? He pointed at the DNA kit box still sitting on the sideboard. You bought this? Did you forget? Or did you want to get caught? I forgot. I sobbed, sinking to my knees. I honestly forgot. It was so long ago, Mark. It meant nothing. It meant nothing? He finally snapped. He stood up, knocking his chair over. He is 10 years old. My entire life with him. Every memory, every sacrifice. It's built on a foundation you laid with another man. You sat across from me every night and watched me love a child that wasn't mine. He is yours, I screamed. In every way that matters, Leo is your son. Don't you dare, he hissed. Don't you dare try to claim the moral high ground now. The next few hours were a blur of screaming and silence. He left that night. He didn't even take a suitcase, just his keys and his phone. The aftermath was a slow-motion car crash. Mark didn't come back. He communicated only through his brother. He wanted a paternity test, a real one, legal and court-admissible. I had to sit Leo down and tell him that the man he called Dad might not be his father. Watching the light go out in my son's eyes was a pain I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Leo stopped talking to me. He wouldn't look at me. He spent his time in his room, throwing a baseball against the wall over and over. Maya, too young to fully understand, just cried because Dad wasn't home and Leo was angry. The divorce was fast and brutal. Mark's lawyer used the DNA results as a sledgehammer. Because I had deceived him for a decade, the settlement was lopsided. I lost the house. I lost the perfect reputation I had spent years cultivating. My parents stopped taking my calls. My friends, the soccer moms I spent every weekend with, quietly removed me from the group chats. But the worst part wasn't the money or the house. It happened 6 months later. I was dropping the kids off at Mark's new apartment for his weekend. Leo got out of the car without a word. Maya hugged me and ran after him. Mark stood in the doorway. He looked older, tired. He looked at Leo, and for a split second, I saw it. The hesitation. He didn't see his mini-me anymore. He saw the face of a man he didn't know. He saw my betrayal. He still loved Leo, but the unbreakable bond had been cracked. I sat in my car in the driveway and watched them go inside. I realized then that I hadn't just cheated on Mark 10 years ago. I had cheated my son out of a father who could look at him without feeling pain. I had cheated Maya out of a stable home. I bought a gift to find our roots. Instead, I ripped the entire tree out by the soul. Now, I live in a small 2-bedroom apartment. Every other weekend, the silence is deafening. I scroll through social media and see families celebrating anniversaries, and I want to scream at them. I want to tell them to cherish the boredom, to cherish the stability. People ask me if I regret the affair. Of course I do. But more than that, I regret the gift. I regret the curiosity that led me to believe I could handle the truth. Because some secrets are meant to stay buried, and some gifts are just boxes full of everything you're about to lose.